No matter when you grew up, there's some properties out there that gets adapted into shows over and over. Dennis the Menace had so many different incarnations. The 1950s live-action series, several one-off TV films. Probably the most remembered, the 1993 film, thanks to the whole Home Alone craze and John Hughes writing it, plus a few direct-to-video movies. I always found Dennis very funny and stupid. It's about a young boy, Dennis Mitchell, creating a lot of problems for his family, friends, and especially his next-door neighbor, George Wilson. I've seen most of the Dennis shows, but the 1986 animated series was the best of the bunch, being like the comic. Now, translating the comic into live action does work to an extent, but not everything can be done. The 86 show pretty much felt like the comic strip. A little too much sometimes. The characters, the looks, several of the episodes were based off the strips. I think why this version stuck with me, two reasons. The show was the first time I heard many of the famous voice actors from Simpsons, Pinky and the Brain, and countless other 90s cartoons I grew up with, from Phil Hartman, Maurice LaMarche, Louise Valance.
Why can't it ever be goodbye?
The second reason, how really stupid the show got. Internally, the show wants to frame Dennis as the good kid. Most of the time when he does something stupid, it's because he's trying to help out.
All those sparks could be dangerous. I better do something.
Oh, Mr. Wilson, you have to paint your house? Or he tries to stop something from being dangerous, which ends up going out of control anyway, making a huge mess wherever he goes. But the show kind of got stuck. We're here to watch the slapstick insanity unfold, but the series has to ramp up the ridiculousness in each episode. Even as a kid, some of the episodes were just so out there, I would be laughing at how dumb the situations got more than the actual comedy, while Dennis would almost never get in trouble with anyone no matter what he did, even having Wilson's house moved by movers. So it made the adults look more stupid than Dennis. Even though the show is called Dennis the Menace, other characters tend to be menaces too. Everyone slowly went into the insanity with him. The series did break up the Menace stuff as well by doing other types of stories. Sometimes aliens would come to Earth. Dennis would act like a detective solving mysteries. Dinosaurs would pop up. In these cases, he really felt like Calvin and Hobbes. I always wondered if Watterson was inspired by some of the Dennis strips. For you guys that never seen the show, it's a mixture of Peanuts, Calvin and Hobbes, and a bit of Popeye rolled into a blender. The show stayed very faithful to the comic with very little changes. The main cast was here, as well as a few new characters thrown in. You have Margaret, a little older than Dennis, the most Peanuts-esque relationship. Margaret is the average girl, likes to have calm playtime, doesn't like causing problems or doing pranks. I don't get why Dennis and Margaret are friends. With Lucy and Charlie Brown, she's a dick towards him, but it's not like Lucy does it every single time. Dennis and Margaret, it kind of feels like a one-up.
28 cents. 19 cents.
Dennis disgusts her with a frog, she'll yell at him, or shows up Dennis in another way, so they constantly fight each other. She's a confusing character. She likes sports and doesn't mind getting messy, but at the same time, throw a frog at her, she goes crazy. And for some reason wants to marry Dennis. They both hate each other, so I never really understood where this came from. Same goes for Gina. She's mainly Margaret's friend. They usually play together and goes along with Dennis's nonsense. I think she pushes Margaret to be Dennis's friend so that she doesn't stay as a stuck-up know-it-all, because Margaret can be overbearing on rules and being obsessive. In the comic, Gina has a crush on Dennis, and she is very similar to Dennis, except not getting into trouble. Joey, Dennis's closest friend, the youngest, so he's always being protected by him if he's ever picked on or needs help. He helps show a lot of Dennis's charm, so he's not a crazy kid all the time, even while he blows up a car. Next is PB Kappa, an original character for the series. The show covers a lot of fantastical ideas like aliens, so you need a smart kid to explain and solve problems if they get into an issue. They built episodes around PB inventing things, so it made for even more crazier episodes. He mostly appears in the second half of the series with a very similar voice to Izzy from the Digimon dub.
I could program my computer to design a mechanical servitor.
His last friend to mention is Jay Weldon, the oldest and the most mellow. He always ends up being asked tons of questions, and he tries to be the responsible one, which usually never works out. Dennis's parents, Henry and Alice, they're always making Dennis go bother Wilson next door. Now, who's really the evil ones? We do know that Dennis's father has a good job since he's able to just drop money down on an expensive car out of nowhere.
Here's the checkbook, dear.
All right, how much for the damages?
Alice, not much is known. We mainly see her home after work, with the last Dennis family character, Ruff, the pet dog, Scooby-Doo basically, which leaves us with Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Now, Miss Wilson sees Dennis as a kind young boy, always inviting him in, giving him food, just somehow misses all the screw-ups he does while George takes the blame for everything. This man goes through it all, from aliens, exploding vacuum cleaners, getting stuck on a train with Dennis, going insane with his house alarm being tripped by Dennis. The list goes on and on with these two.
You stupid kids!
The series does have a few issues. The show would feature a ton of Dennis and Wilson, but there would be huge chunks of episodes where his friends would never be in it, his parents being the worst off. All the characters had this problem. It wasn't just like, say, Margaret. Even Ruff would get ignored a bunch. It was hard to remember the characters' names because of how little they got used, but oddly, ancillary characters like the barbershop guy would be referenced all over the place. The other issue I had, Dennis's actor, Brennan Thicke, he's a good Dennis, but you can see he wasn't used to voice acting. Dennis spoke slow and precise. You could feel Brennan not wanting to screw up his lines.
You look different without your mustache.
It got annoying when everyone else is speaking at normal speed, then Dennis comes in and is going,
Me and my dad are gonna take a trip.
Good. I hope it's a long one.
He does it for a good 20 episodes, but eventually you can hear him get better.
Your Honor, I object on the grounds that this is boring.
It allowed Dennis to be more funny instead of having jokes be drawn out a little too long. The series lasted for a good 70 plus episodes, not to get confused by the second animated series in 1993 called All New Dennis the Menace. That's a separate series, even though they brought back Janine Ellis to voice Margaret. If you like stupid slapstick and the closest adaptation of the Dennis comic, I would pick this series above all the others. You can also watch the 93 cartoon too, it's just not as good. While people remember the 93 movie because it has like Leah Thompson and Christopher Lloyd in it, it doesn't capture the comic all that well, and the 50s TV series feels similar to Leave It to Beaver. It literally was made to replace Leave It to Beaver's time slot, and they toned Dennis down after a few episodes. Live action never lived up to the Dennis comics. There was always something missing. Something that bugged me was that Dennis's house, no matter the time, leaves the garage door open. Now what's going on here is that the backgrounds are drawn so that they can reuse for other shots, in this case for the car leaving and coming back shots. So the door will be animated later, but the animators kept forgetting to place a door on top of the background. So it just makes Dennis's family look really stupid. And as usual, another series I enjoyed as a kid, Shuki Levy and Haim Saban were involved. These guys pop up in all these weird places. Thanks for checking out the review. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you remember a movie or a show that's long been forgotten, good or bad, leave it as a suggestion below. I'm always on the lookout for obscured stuff.